I think when Season of the Seraph dropped, a lot of players were really concerned that this season was going to be even worse than Season of the Plunder. I feel like a lot of players, when they saw Season of the Seraph, were like, all right, this is it. This is the end of Destiny. This is the end of the world as we know it. We aren't getting any new exotic armor pieces. There's no Arc 3.0, Solar 3.0, Void 3.0 reworks. Season of the Seraph has shut up myself, and I'm sure many others as well, as this season has kicked ass. I do want to talk about what Bungie has done right with this season that I hope they keep doing going forward with future seasons, as well as some stuff they could probably do better. Loot is great. The fact that I'm actually interested in grinding armor for a reason outside of stats is a really good sign. The fact that I'm even playing PvE as a hardcore PvP player at all says something as to the quality and the creativity of these armor pieces. I don't know if Bungie's art team is going to be able to keep delivering these absolute bangers of armor pieces, but holy crap, if they can, sign me up. The bad. We're still in the seasonal model. The battle pass system still doesn't feel the greatest. It's all right. It still feels like we're missing a little bit of oomph to the overall seasonal updates. Arc 3.0 and the 3.0 reworks in general are a great way to bring in that oomph, but I feel like if we updated the core playlist as a whole, players would be generally happier. The good. Revision 0, not just the weapon, but the entire mission is so much fun to play. If we can get one of these every single season, I don't think anybody would complain. The bad. Recycled content. Now, to be fair, the recycled content that we have seen with the Spire the Watcher bosses and so on and so forth isn't awful, as it's put into a context that makes it feel more interesting, but it's at least worth mentioning as one of the things that could be better. Aikilos weapons as well has been recycled now twice, so there's 3 versions of them out there. That's a little frustrating, but at the end of the day, not that big of a deal. Maybe it's just a personal thing, but lore and characters has resonated far better with me, and I'm much more invested in it, and I also think that it's a good idea that they tied the first little bit of the Revision 0 quest into you completing just a little bit of the story, because it got me, whether I liked it or not, invested in the actual characters in the lore, and we're getting to see more character interactions, and people aren't just cardboard, which has been a big problem with Destiny's characters, besides, you know, people like Cade and such. A lot of these characters feel like cardboard. They're paper thin and they're uninteresting, but the lore and characters for this one has been fantastic. All of the stuff I hope we can see and more fleshed out going forward. Back to the bad. This one is a personal one, but PvP is absolute dog water right now. I have had less enjoyment and less drive to get into 6v6 lobbies. It's not just skill-based matchmaking. I think more than anything, if I had really had a complaint, it's quitter penalties, and then team balancing is still wacky. It still feels like Bungie's enforcing a 50-50 win-loss ratio, whether you like it or not, so it doesn't even matter that skill-based matchmaking is thing. It's honestly not that big of a deal. I know some players have a very strong opinion about it, but personally, not that big of a deal. It's the fact that I keep getting put with teams who are clearly not skill-based match made with me. We're still getting mercy rolled. Quitter penalties are annoying. We've seen very little communication from Bungie about that. The meta right now is awful. We've got a barricade and long-range scout / pulse rifle meta, which is just unfun to play against. It's just not exciting, but I digress. Back to the good. Spire the Watcher as a dungeon is great. It's a really fun dungeon. There was a bit of mixed reviews about Duality. I'm not a big PvE player myself, but of course I peruse Twitter and I kind of keep an eye on everything that goes on. But it seems like the consensus was that Duality was not very fun, or it just was buggy, or there's problems with it. Whereas Spire seems to be overwhelmingly received as a positive. I'm sure that's partially because of the loot, but the engagements themselves are fun to play. The actual mechanics of the Spire of the Watcher is engaging. It's different. It's not just stuffing moats. While we're on this topic, the Heist Battlegrounds, despite it being kind of, again, sort of recycled content, is fun. They don't feel like the same old, just slightly reskinned. Even though that does happen in Destiny, this is definitely the least of that. A bit of the bad, this is just purely for a check mark, but it feels particularly grindy. I haven't myself been really pushing for red border weapons, but I know many a friend was spent a lot of time just trying to get red border weapons, wasting a whole bunch of time and not getting a whole bunch. I can talk about the abysmal drop rates of the cool armor pieces that come from the Spire of the Watcher, etc., etc., etc. it's Destiny. That's kind of what you sign up for. But this season in particular, feels like they definitely dialed it up just a little bit more than normal, although I could be wrong. World drops, weapons, and the diversity of weapon representation is fantastic. We've seen weapons like, for example, the Stay Frosty, which is a lightweight pulse, which we don't have a lot of in the kinetic slot, and its stasis. It's such a unique weapon. Just taking that one by itself, it's such a unique weapon to fill a unique niche that this weapon doesn't feel like a throwaway. It doesn't feel like something I'm just like, whatever. I actually feel invested to go out and get this thing. Back to the bad, Airborne Effectiveness continues to be a pain in the ass. I hopefully don't need to rehash all of this. It has been talked to death, but thankfully Bungie has spoken out and said that they are going to be addressing it, so I won't beat that dead horse any further. Ranked PvP is a great step in the right direction. I think that it could have been done more eloquently, it could have been done more elegantly, it could have been done more thoroughly, but it is a good movement towards a better, more enjoyable, competitive experience for PvP players. The ranking system feels mostly meaningless, although it does have a little bit of value to it now, as I think Bungie will eventually kind of get that balance right in between like skill-based matchmaking and like rank-based matchmaking. Rose being accessible to all players is a great incentive to jump in, so more players are engaging with it. The Rose is a great hand cannon, currently the only represented hand cannon in PvP in like the top 10 or 5 or however many it is. But there is, on the bad side of things, just a general lack of support for the mode outside of the Rose itself. It would be great to get some cosmetics for this. It would be great to get some unique weapon skins or ornaments or something, just something to add to the experience and make becoming an Ascendant rank player more unique and special. Last two things are for the bad. No exotic armor this season. Frankly, I'm okay with it. If we get Revision 0 level of commitment and interest with an exotic weapon, I'm totally fine with not getting a new exotic armor piece. Frankly, we need to go back and rebalance a bunch of them anyway, so that's totally fine if they want to spend the resources more in a more useful way. And lastly, there are still bugs that are disabling exotics. Jade Rabbit has still been disabled for like a solid month. I know nobody's losing their mind that they can't use Jade Rabbit, but it is an example to represent the whole. The Icefall mantles have had a annoying bug for the 13 of us that use it for 5 months, I think it has been at this point. So small stuff like that I still feel like needs to be combed through and taken care of. It would be nice to see a season where it was mostly focused on those smaller things, taking care of those more smaller things. But overall, this season's good. And it makes me excited for Lightfall because I feel like that this season as a whole, despite it being what is effectively a throwaway season, sort of an end of the era season, like an end of the year season that nobody really is supposed to care about that much outside of just setting up the big expansion coming next year, is pretty good. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Subscribe if you like this kind of ranting. Bless your faces. Deuces.